Let's also go live on YouTube. We're going to be covering the news on atheism, secularism, religion, politics. I think we should also be live now on YouTube. If you're seeing us on YouTube, please say something. On Facebook also, please let us know how the audio is. Anybody say something? Let us know how the audio is. Can you hear us?
Yeah, let us know. Hello.
Here we go. Beach is saying, here we go. Okay, yep. Hello. How's the audio? I can see. Okay, people are liking on Facebook. Okay, I think I'm already. Yep, sound is good. Thank you, Beach. Okay, let's go. First
All
news.
right. First bit of news is straight out of Colorado, USA. Abortion rates are falling in Colorado due to free and easy contraception access. What a shocker! So, Colorado, for those of you guys who don't know, is one of the states in the USA that has legalized marijuana, and they've come leaps and bounds away from the traditional standards of all of our other states. So now what they've done is they've made contraception outrageously easy for women to obtain. Not only that, but they've put no blocks whatsoever on getting an abortion when you need one. And by doing those two things, they have dropped abortion rates have dropped 10% between 2014 and 2017.
Just as everybody was expect has shown, and this is like what all studies show. Like I don't even understand why this would be something that people would be against. Like as a so-called pro-lifer or anti-choice, the other way to say it, what would the argument be against this? Like, why wouldn't shouldn't this make everybody happy? Like, even people that hate abortion, shouldn't this be like, yay, less abortion, this is great? Like, why would any can we try to steelman the other side's position? Because I don't even know how would it even start. Why would
Well,
it?
in America, it's a lot of it has to do with Catholicism. So birth control in and of itself is essentially evil because you're stopping the production of warriors for Christ. So birth control in and of itself is bad. So they don't want that everywhere for everyone to get.
Yeah, but
And
they're also against abortion, right? So
yes,
aren't they conflicted on this? And they're like, yeah, we want more kids, but we also hate abortion so much that this is kind of a good thing. So shouldn't they be happy? Like, shouldn't
it's one of those
everybody be
things where they
happy?
want it all, right? They want 1,000 babies and they want you to keep them all. So
Right.
it's messed up.
Shouldn't they at
I
least
mean,
see a silver lining here? Like, well, yeah, we don't like this to be freely available, but at least it stop abortion. Can they at least see a silver lining in this? I don't know. Shopam, you wanted to say something?
yeah, I was talking to a Christian guy online, and he was like, I mean, they were like also against condoms, so abortion pill is like way too far. He was saying like, yeah, God is trying to give you a baby by using contraceptions and all. You are going against God's plan, and so you are doing evil and yada yada yada.
Maybe God's plan was to give you the contraception. How do you know that's not how do you know that was not part of his plan? Doesn't he work in mysterious ways?
I don't know. I was laughing too hard to reply.
Uh, um so when they say free, does that mean government funded?
Um, so there are a lot of programs in Colorado. So you know how we had Planned Parenthood everywhere that was providing lower income with free contraception? Well, they've found ways, yes, that are government funded, not necessarily through Planned Parenthood, to allow low income people to obtain easily contraception that they need. I'm talking so easy, guys, that pharmacists need to take like a 4 hour class, and that's it before they can start distributing birth control pills, the morning after pills. And many clinics are providing IUDs, which sit in the uterus to prevent fertilized egg from sticking to the uterine wall. They're doing these in basic clinics at very low cost to everyone there.
So here, as somebody that I know, and I know a lot of you guys disagree with this, but I'm a free market capitalist that promotes limited government intervention, and this is a government intervention that I support, right? But just because you're for limited government, again, I always say I'm not doesn't mean that you're for no government. Again, it's a case by case basis, and this is a good investment by the government, because even though they're spending money on something, they're saving more money for the government in the long run, right? Like the cost associated with this is going to be less than the cost by the government when it comes to the all the externalities that comes from abortion, all the parents that have to deal with babies that they weren't planning for. The cost for that to society is much more than the small cost that they have to pay for providing free and easy access to contraceptions, right? So
Right.
it's not about just less spending. It's about smart spending and investing in things that is going to save the government and the people more in the long run, right? Let me see
Yeah.
what the top comment is. The top comment is by Jonathan saying anti-choicers. Yeah, I think we should stop calling them pro-life. We should call them anti-choicers, right? Anti-choicers aren't celebrating this because it gives women freedom. It doesn't exercise control over women, which seems to be a fundamental component of the anti-choice
That's a good point too.
forced birth worldview. I don't. Okay, it might be effective. I don't know if that's how they see it, though. I don't know if it's fair to see it like that, right? Like a lot of the decisions that come from religions, Islam, Christianity, and other religions, end up being against women and for control over women. But it does that not by convincing the people that you know promote these ideas that that's the motive, right? It is the meme of religion wins and succeeds by exerting more control over women, but the religious people do not think like, oh, let me promote this idea because women should not have freedom, right? I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Most of them genuinely think that they're saving lives. Like it's not about taking women's freedom away. It's about, I mean, these are not evil people that are like, ha ha ha, let me make women less free. You know what I mean? Like that's not that's not how they think, right? That's
Twirling their mustaches.
yeah, yeah. They're like no, they're like these. They think that fetuses have souls, and souls are these are human lives that need to be protected. They're wrong, right? Fetuses are not self-aware. They don't deserve as much protection and rights as self-aware conscious beings. So they're wrong, but they're not evil. They don't just because they're wrong. That doesn't mean that they are. So I don't think it's fair to I think we need to be more charitable to other people's positions than that.
Well,
Yeah.
but I do understand where that commenter was coming from, though, because a lot of these beliefs just simply go hand in hand, and you can try to look at the positive side and say, look, they just want to save souls and they want to save lives and they want to save babies, but at the same time they want to do that at the expense of other people, and it becomes very tiresome when we have lawmakers who, like in the state of Texas, want to make it to where women get the death penalty if they get an abortion. Okay? And when this stuff is crammed at our faces constantly, seeing that good in people, they're just trying to save babies. It's at the expense of other people, though. And I think
I
that we do need to keep that in mind.
I agree with that, and that's why their views are a problem. I'm not denying that their views does not have the consequences that you're saying, and that's why it needs to be fought against. I just think
Mhm.
that to be able to effectively fight against those views, we need to be be honest about their motivations.
Definitely.
Those are the consequences of their views, but not necessarily their motivation for why they're doing it, right? And to stop it, we have to genuinely understand what their motivation is, right? Shopam, do you have anything to add to this before we
Okay,
go?
I had a question. Like, I don't agree that everyone who's against abortion is like, oh, we need to save a life and everything, because many of them don't really care about what happens after the
Uh,
baby is born.
Many of
Okay.
them do, though.
Yeah,
Again,
many
that's
of them do. I'll
right.
agree that many of them do, but there are people who don't care about what happens to the baby after it's born. So
Mm.
what about them? I don't see how they care about life.
Yeah, but we can't. Again, that's. I think that some of them are like that, and I think a lot of people from our side takes those people and try to generalize that entire community, as if they only cared about fetuses and they stop caring after they're born. I
Yeah,
mean,
not everyone does that.
yeah,
I
but
agree to that.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, well, there are people that don't care about other people from all sides, right? You could find as many people, as many Christians that care about fetuses and born babies at the same time. There are many Christians that are, taking homeless people into their, adopt a whole bunch of kids to take care of them, adopt orphans, and to take care of them. So you could find many examples of that as well. So I think looking at their worst is not a fair way of assessing what the motivation is. But I
We
mean,
did.
yeah. Go
Oh,
on.
sorry.
Go on.
I thought you were done.
No.
In our live chat, we did get another really good point. He said, for them, this encourages fornication, which is a serious sin for fundamentalists. Johnny Park said that. And that's very true. As they see
Yes.
birth control as, people are going to be having more sex, and this is going to lead to sex outside of marriage and
See, that's
other.
fair. That's an actual, concern again, and it's dumb concern that they have, right? So again, it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, let's limit the freedom of women, which is stupid but not true. But this one is stupid motivation and a true motivation. The fact that they fear people having sex all the time, which is, in my view, a good thing. In their view, an evil thing. But that's actually a genuine reason why they would be against this. Like that's
Yes.
a fair criticism. Okay, let's go to. Hold on. Let's let it load. Let it load. Okay, next news.
Next news is out of the USA. A Christian rapper walks out of the Addams Family movie due to demonic elements. So, for any of you who don't know who the Addams Family is, they've been around since I was a little girl. I'm 35. So they've been around for quite some time. They're a morbid family anyways. So obviously anything that has to do with the Addams Family is going to be a little morbid. And this rapper goes in there with his children. He brings his children into this theater to see this movie. And he packs up his kids and makes everybody leave because he says that the movie had too many demonic aspects to it. And then, like, filming his kids and stuff, he makes them pray because God is the only one who can combat the demonic aspects of what it was they just saw. And this is a movie for kids. By the way, this is a children's movie. And that's where we are.
Wait, why did he not know what he's going into? Like,
There's no way he didn't know. There's no way.
Do you think that it might be true? Again, I'm just guessing that he knew that this is a movie that he wouldn't like, but he just wanted an opportunity to film this and put this on social media, that they're praying the satanic forces away.
Absolutely, because I've never heard of this Christian rapper before.
Oh yeah, Actually,
And now his name is popping up,
Okay,
So
but-
absolutely, it's brilliant.
So see, again, if that was his plan, again, this is smart. I'm sorry, but this is smart, because a lot of times atheists look at stuff stories like this and we're like, haha, dumb Christians, so stupid. But then if you actually know what the motivation was, if you dig in a bit deeper, it might have actually been smarter than what you think, right? A lot of times religious people that do stuff that atheists think is dumb, but if you look at it from not from a moral perspective, but from a strategic perspective, if you actually dig in a little bit deeper, it's a lot smarter than you think. This guy is a rapper. A lot of people are making fun of him and mentioning his name, and he's also making fun of us all the way to the bank, right? Like, because
Right.
a lot of people now are mentioning his name and linking to him. And
But I do feel sad for his kids.
yeah,
I mean, come on. That was just terrible.
right.
Will he allow his kids to watch Scooby Doo now? Because I think the Addams Family is in Scooby Doo.
Yeah, and as the article points out, this was a lost opportunity to teach his children, right? If he truly believed this movie was demonic and it was just evil, He could have at least let his kids see the movie and see what evil, horrible things would have happened after. It was just a missed learning opportunity, in my opinion. But I don't think that this was about that. I really do believe this is about him putting this out on social media, bringing his kids into it, taunting his children, hey, we're going to go have a fun time, rip it away from his kids. That was mean. And as another godless atheist points out, the Addams Family has actually been around since the mid-'60s. I forgot about that. It was a black and white show before.
Yeah.
So it's been around forever. Everyone knows the Addams Family. So I knew what he was getting
BG
into.
saying maybe he thought it was Adam's Family with Eve, Cain, and Abel. Adam's Family, that's true. That's actually, I didn't think about that. Yeah, okay, let me actually see what the top comment is. Top comment is from Jenna. My kids are so excited for this movie. Somebody else that I can't pronounce the name is saying, still got your money dummy. Like, really? So you don't know the Addams Family? Religious people are wild. Again, I think if maybe he's that dumb, or maybe he just he set a bait for atheists, and we just took it, and now he's just benefiting from that. Like, I think maybe all these attention that he's getting, that's exactly what he was planning for. But to use his kids for that, if that was his plan, this guy is clever, but he's also like evil because he's using his kids as a way to to sell his brand.
So mean.
Richard is saying, now I've got to find his music so I can tear it apart along with his beliefs. Yeah, again, Richard, good luck. People think when they go like on iTunes and leave a negative review for music or something like that, they don't know that they're actually giving more links to it from your profile to theirs.
Exactly. People are going to want to see what's so bad about it.
Yeah, and people, and atheists, sometimes people come on Atheist Republic's YouTube channel, they're like, I only showed up here to leave a dislike. I buy. I like, oh wow, so horrible. You do know, yeah, your dislike just gave an engagement to our YouTube channel, and you also left a comment which gave another engagement to our YouTube channel. You do realize that you're promoting our channel. Like, and people come and swear and like leave negative comments. They have no idea that they're actually promoting these.
Yeah, actually, this happened to me. Like, there's this conservative friend I have, and he left a very bad comment under an atheist page, and I got the notification that your friend has left a comment, and I got to see the post, which was quite interesting. So
yeah.
I wanted to thank him. Thank you for giving me that notification.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people people come and say, leave nasty, like even when they swear, right? And they like, oh, this is I almost swore right now. They notifying all their friends about our video, so thank you for that. Stephanie is saying, sweet, this means there will be more room in the theater. Actually, what are you talking about, Stephanie? When he bought it, like, do you think somebody's gonna come halfway during the show and fill out that seat? What? I don't know. Okay, never mind. So this Chris. All right. Anything else?
No.
No.
All right. Let's go next news.
Next news is out of the Philippines. Mandatory Bible reading in public schools may be coming to the Philippines. Thanks to House Bill 2069, known as the Mandatory Bible Reading Act of 2019, elementary students and secondary school students will have to read, discuss, and examine the Bible in English and Filipino, according to the Manila Times. So the minority leader, Benevito Abante Jr., who is also a pastor, has been the person who has been working behind this House bill. And yeah, I mean, other people in the administration are pointing out how difficult it would be to enact this. But what do you guys think about mandatory Bible reading in elementary and secondary schools?
What do you think we think? This is horrible. But what the hell is... wait, so Philippines has a huge Muslim community as well. Would this be for Muslim students as well?
Absolutely not. Well, this is for every student, but it will not include any other religion. This is just the Bible.
No, I know, but like,
So,
so Muslim
so the
students.
Muslim students going to elementary and secondary schools would have to read the Bible.
Are you sure this is going to be a major, like, the secularists and the atheists don't have that much influence here, but the Muslims, I mean, Philippines has a really dark history with its Muslim population, especially in the southern Philippines. This, if this is also for the Muslim students, this is not going to go down very well. Like this, like, there's not going to
This
be
is why
much.
we shouldn't have pastors trying to make House bills pass to the entire country.
Yeah, but I don't even know how this will be possible. I mean, especially in the southern Philippines, they have been very sensitive. They have been very accommodating to Muslim students. Like, I know, like, for example, when you want to go get married, there are classes, there are lectures that you have to attend before you get married. And they mention some Bible verses, but in southern Philippines, they also mention some Quranic verses, which is all nonsense, but they have been accommodating to their Muslim population, at least in the south. I don't know what about the rest of Philippines. So I wonder how would they be willing to pass this bill on all of Philippines, given the Muslim population in the Philippines. By the way, the atheist community in Philippines is a very strong and growing movement, and at Atheist Republic is proud to mention that we have one of the largest atheist communities in the Philippines, the Atheist Republic's Manila Consulate. And we also have consulates in Davao, Cebu, and Angeles, and in other cities in Philippines. They're all very big and growing, and our Manila Consulate is one of the fastest growing one. Other groups, atheist groups in Philippines, includes the Happy, HAPI, and Filipino Freethinkers. These are other groups in Philippines. So the secular movement is very, not as influential as they should be, but it's a fast growing community, and very proud of them. Even though they disagree on many things, still they're very important. And I hope they manage to get along even with their disagreements. Another thing to note that is, um, I mean, with all the, and I know that we have. I'm not gonna go into the human rights violations and stuff, because those are a whole bunch of different discussion. But President Duterte, he himself has made a lot of comments against religion and the Catholic Church, right? So I don't know how this, under Duterte's regime, how all of this is going. Like, it's for some, Duterte came out publicly, said God is stupid, didn't he?
Yeah, he said we actually covered that.
He said God is stupid in one of the most Catholic countries in the world. Duterte came out and said, and God is stupid. So I don't understand. And with a president that enjoys more than 90% approval rating in Philippines, I don't know how people forgive him for that, while also passing laws that says, mandatory Bible reading for all of Philippines under President Duterte. I don't understand how this works. I don't know how people in Philippines could be so supportive of Duterte and be supportive of bills like this at the same time. Somebody educate us on this. I don't understand it. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ian is saying, well, kids love fairy tales. Yeah, but when it's sold to them as fairy tales, not as a guide to life. Again, I wouldn't mind reading the Bible to my kids even as fairy tale. I probably would do that once I have kids, right? As long as they understand that this is a fairy tale. But this is not what it's being sold as. It's being sold as. I always tell Muslims and Christians, you have no idea how fun your religion is if you stop believing in it. Islam is more fun if you stop believing in it. Christianity is more fun if you stop believing in it. It's fairy tales. Aaron is saying, once the bill has been signed by Tatay Diggs, this will be a mandatory nationwide fairy tale reading. Oh my God, this is so sad. Ian is saying, read it and read it thoroughly. Welcome to atheism. But that's not how they're going to teach it. Okay? I grew up in Iran. we studied the Quran. We didn't read it the cover to cover. All the verses were hand picked and selected for us in a separate book, not the Quran itself, and with their own interpretation and all the explanation. You have one verse, and in one chapter, and all the stories. So it's not an objective reading of the Bible. They basically tell you, they put it in again, if it was an objective analysis of the Bible, it would have probably produced more atheists. But unfortunately, it's not going to be like that. Anyways, let's go. Next news.
All right, next news out of the USA. Americans are becoming less Christian as over a quarter follow no religion. In research done over the past decade, figuring out where America stands on religion, it's saying that atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular has risen by 17%, making Christians 2/3 of the country now instead of a majority. So that's pretty interesting news.
That's pretty good. However, we're losing, like in United States.
Politics.
Yeah, politics. It's so interesting that all around the world we're winning the demographic game, and we're losing the politics game. Right? Again, atheism and non-religion is growing in United States, in Canada, in Israel, in Indonesia, in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, in Egypt, in Bangladesh, in Malaysia, everywhere. There are a few places that that's not the case, right? Most places that is the case. But yet, politically, we're losing, and Christianity and Islam is gaining more influence politically in United States, in Canada, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Egypt, or Judaism in Israel. Even though secular, more and more people are abandoning religion in Israel, Judaism is becoming more influential in politics in Israel. Everywhere we're losing politically, again, because religious people have mastered the art of playing politics, and atheists shy away from it because they think that's a religious thing to do. So that's why they stay away from it. They don't vote, they don't unite, they don't make communities, they don't get organized, they don't get involved in politics, they don't create their own special interest groups, they don't create their own. Actually, we have another story today that's going to address that with Elizabeth Warren. They don't do these things. And that's why they're like, oh, why should I do that? If I wanted to do that, I would have stayed in religion. Oh, well, congratulations. Now you're letting religious people take control over everything in your own lives, right? And this is another reason why Atheist Republic is becoming more and more political. If we get more support, link in the description, please support us. We're becoming a political movement because we realize that that's a major gap that we haven't filled, because religion is gaining more and more control in our lives on a global scale. It's like, for example, in the United States, even after Trump leaves, look how well Christians have played their hand with Trump. The number of judges that he has selected is going to impact generations to come. They have masterfully won that game with Trump, right? You have no idea the amount of influence they have, and the amount of impact these judges are going to have on people's lives for decades to come, right? So we are losing that game, and this is why we need to get political, and this is why you need to support organizations like Atheist Republic. Again, link in the description. One thing, by the way, guys, did you see Kanye West coming and making pop culture Christianity? We need to cover that next week, because
we do need to cover that. Yes,
because I wonder if people like him are going to keep Christianity more more relevant, make its death much slower. So we'll see. We'll cover that next week. Let's see what the top comment is. Top comment saying, hopefully that will reflect in future elections, in that people will start voting for what's best for them and their country, and not to fulfill in their mind some sort of prophecy. Yeah, well, again, what I could tell you is that even if religious become the absolute minority, if you don't get organized politically, they will still win. again, if you look at countries like Israel, where very religious people are very like part of a very small minority, but yet they manage to control politics because other people don't vote based on their secularism or based on keeping religion out of politics. They just not organized. They're not clever about playing politics. So it's not. It will not reflect in future elections unless we try to get organized and get people motivated to vote accordingly. So
Mhm.
numbers and demographics are not everything. They're not enough. They're not enough. And again, we're going to get to that later today about with the story on Elizabeth Warren. Okay, guys, do you want to add anything to this?
Nope.
No.
Okay, let's go to the next news.
Next news out of Florida, United States. A theater teacher is fired from Christian school due to her same sex relationship. This is becoming so tiresome, especially, hearing that gays never have to face any sort of discrimination in 2019. This awesome teacher who all the parents have been saying, this teacher is so awesome. The students love her. Everybody loved her. She did an amazing job every day. She was at her job doing it. Some whistleblower calls up the school and says, "Hey, did you know that your theater teacher is gay, and she's been in a committed relationship with her lesbian lover?" And they're like, "Oh, really?" And they fire her. They throw her out. They send out a letter to the school saying, our theater teacher has had to leave abruptly, and we'll be working really hard on finding a replacement for her. And
Wow.
here we are. Here we are. We had a teacher who was amazing. We had a teacher who motivated children, and she's gone because she's a lesbian.
So some people might think, isn't this illegal? And again, this is in the United States, right?
Right, but it's at a private school, not a government funded school. So the Covenant Christian School in Palm Bay.
Right, but even if it was a private school, it depends on the state whether or not you
They
know
have
be,
religious freedom laws.
no, whether or not being gay makes you a protected minority or not, right? From
Mm.
so I don't know if that's correct or not, but in some states this would be illegal because firing based on sexual orientation would be legal, and in some states this is not illegal. Am I right?
Um, I don't know the complete laws, to be honest with you, in and out, but many states get away with doing this for various reasons.
Right. So it's not just about religious freedom because you can't if you fire somebody in any state, I think in the United States because they are a woman, for example, that would be illegal, right? That is already against the law under the Constitution. I think now, actually, just recently we were this was being challenged by Christians whether or not it would be legal to do the same thing based on somebody being trans or gay. That's not, I think the way it was mentioned in the Constitution is only based on gender. So Christians will say, well, being gay, for example, that has nothing to do with your gender, and that people that the people that want to make it against the Constitution to fire somebody based on their sexual orientation are trying to argue, well, based on the spirit of that law, it would apply to sexual orientation as well, right? Because if you have to look at the purpose of why is it illegal for you, for example, to fire somebody for being a woman, right? Because and if you figure out if you just go by the reason why that should be illegal, the same should apply for firing somebody for their sexual orientation, right? And if they manage to successfully argue that with the Supreme Court, then this will become illegal across the United States, which I'm hoping that they succeed at some point, right? Um,
Right.
but
And
yeah,
to anyone else who thinks that this is just as cut and dry as this is legal or this is illegal, people like this woman right here and couples uh, like this couple right here, all around the country every day are fired or mistreated in one way or another in a way that is completely illegal. But here's the deal: not everyone has thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to take it to court. You don't get to just scream, "Hey, this is illegal. You can't fire me because I'm gay." Um, I'm a protected class, right? No, you have to take them to court. You have to spend thousands of your own dollars to do this. This is why articles like this are so important for us to see, because we don't get to see these cases in court often enough. We don't get to. Not everyone has the ability to sue when they're discriminated against. So, even in this case right here, even if this was completely illegal for them to do, unless somebody comes and sponsors her or she has thousands of dollars hanging around, her life is messed up forever, and there may not be any justice.
You're right. That's a good point. Another godless atheist is saying, I don't understand how her personal private life that is kept private from the school has an effect on her job if she keeps it to herself. Yeah. Christy is saying many states have their own laws and some of them have protections for the LGBT and them under their civil rights law and other states don't. Yeah. So yeah, that's the law. The civil rights law. Some states have gone beyond just race and so the civil rights law that applies to the entire countries is based on race and gender, right? So some states have gone the extra mile and they said included other protected classes, which is based on sexual orientation and also transgender people, and some states haven't. But some people are trying to now challenge this and trying to make this law to protect, based on sexual orientation and also transgender people all across the United States. And I really hope that succeeds. Unfortunately, I think in the Constitution, it only mentions race and gender. So you have to effectively argue why that should be applied to other, protected classes as well by arguing this, the spirit of the law and stuff like that. What do you say, Ali Shobham, what do you say to people that say, why would she, if she's a lesbian, why would she be in a Christian school? Like this
Well,
is
because she believes in God. She's a Christian. And she thought that this was a great way to help influence children in a positive way. Not that she was bringing her sexuality into the classroom at all. It's just she was a good, loving woman, and she was teaching children in a good, loving, positive way. It made her feel good. She's a Christian. She had every reason to be there. It was a perfect fit.
But I bet you there are some atheists in the comment section somewhere saying that, oh well, she's a hypocrite for being a lesbian and a Christian at the same time, and this is what you get when you support a religion that is against your identity, against who you are and who you love.
And that is so incredibly sad that people would think that way, because it's just I mean, we've said it on this show hundreds of times before. You can be a very smart person and have a very bad idea on one thing. You can be wrong about one thing and get other things right. She knows who she is as a person. She's able to, in her private life, be who she wants to be. And she still believes in God. So she has one thing wrong. It doesn't mean that she deserves this.
Exactly. That's good. Shopam, you add anything?
Yeah, Ali just said what I was going to say. So, yeah.
Okay, that was very well put, Ali. Thank you. All right. Next news.
Next news is out of Ohio, USA. A Muslim student is disqualified in Ohio high school cross-country race for wearing a hijab. The 16-year-old Ohio high school student went to a race, competed in the race. She ran. Everything seemed fine on her end until after the race she realized, oh, my time wasn't posted. What's going on with this? So she's hanging around waiting to see what's going on. And then it turns out she was actually disqualified from the race because she was wearing a hijab during the competition. And when she said, but nobody told me, like, I didn't know, they said, well, your coach was supposed to fill out paperwork as letting us know that you'd be wearing something different than what met our standards. And, she was like, I don't even understand why my coach would have needed to tell you this. This has nothing to do with my performance. It didn't increase or decrease my performance. Everything's fine with me wearing my hijab. So she was disqualified. It turns out that they did go back and let her coach fill out the paperwork, and they are looking at the rules to see if they can exclude this in the future. And Elizabeth Warren came out and said that every kid should be able to feel safe and welcome at school, and Muslim students should never be denied participation in school activities. And I did just want to point out that she wasn't denied participation. I mean, she was able to participate. It's just her score wasn't recorded at that time because they had disqualified her ahead of time.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on this, Sally?
It goes two ways. I think that the rules were wrong, right? I don't think that a student who wears a hijab needs to fill out this paperwork. However, I don't think that that should be argued by not doing it and then expecting them to qualify you. And I'm sorry if that sounds very harsh, but I'm just looking at this from, a standard that they have. They say if you're wearing anything outside of the uniform provided, you need to fill out a form. This could have been protested ahead of time. This could have been, discussed in a different way. I don't think this student necessarily knew that paperwork even needed to be filled out, but it's one of those things. It's a bad rule. It's a bad. I don't think that she should have to do it. But as long as it is a rule, I think you need to abide by it when it comes to team competitions. So.
Yep. Yeah. So whether the rule is bad or not, it's very interesting. I was looking at the comments on this and people's opinion, and I think both sides, the comments on both sides were pretty tribal, without much nuance. Without Shopam, can you mute your microphone, please?
Yeah.
Without much nuance, people just have very strong opinions on this, based on whether they were against bigotry or against Islam, and they weren't even considering. So for example, so many people just thought that this is obvious racism. I don't know how it's racism at all, but I think that they meant bigotry. They said this is obviously bigotry, and they didn't even pause a little bit that this might be just a bad rule or a miscommunication. It must be bigotry. It must be bigotry. It can't be anything else, right? And then the other side that, our side, the anti-Islam people, that they think that she deserved this, right? That this is good that this happened to her. It's good. As I saw a comment on our own page, somebody said like, "Oh, you shouldn't just be disqualified from a race. You should, because you wear the hijab, you should be disqualified from life as a whole." I'm like, holy shit. Okay, but I mean, okay. So first of all, this nobody says like, well, I don't know what happened here. I didn't see one person saying, well, it depends on what the motivation was, right? The people that thought this was bigotry seem to completely understand, completely know the motivation. There was this person that was like, looked at this like, oh, this is a girl with hijab. I'll show her. I'll show this Muslim girl that, like, I hate Muslims so much. I'm just going to take her score away from her. And that's like, they thought like this, like, do you really have such I mean, they might be right, but how do they know? Do you have such low view on humanity that you think that the person that removed this person from the scoreboard was not thinking like, oh, I have to apply the rules that I see on paper? You could argue maybe the rules are stupid. Maybe you could argue that the rules were applied incorrectly. You could argue that maybe the rules the person could have thought about this a little bit, and maybe they could have said like, oh, the rule says this, but maybe I should like think about how I'm going to apply this in the situation. This could backfire massively as it did right now. You could argue all of that, but for people to just assume that this must be motivated by bigotry, and be so sure about it, like, where are you getting that from? How are you so sure? How are you reading people's mind? Do you see bigotry everywhere, every time? Like, would you say, like, do you not know that this is probably happening to a whole bunch of other students that are getting disqualified that were not Muslim, right? This probably happens every day to a whole bunch of other students as well, that they get disqualified for other things. Yet, the way that this was unfair to her is what this was not communicated very well to her at all. Why did you let her race, and then all at the end she realized that, oh, she would have been disqualified? Why did nobody tell her before she was racing? Right? You could blame the teacher. You could be like, how did the teacher not know that he needed to get this paperwork for her? Maybe you could blame the teacher. You could say all of that, right?
Right.
But guess what? This kind of bad communication and poor decision making has been probably happening to a whole bunch of other non-Muslim students as well. In the same story, okay, so there was a bunch of other students that weren't able even to race. They weren't Muslim. They weren't wearing the right outfit, and they didn't even get to race. Okay, so they weren't Muslim. Nobody's standing for their rights. But at least they were told before they run. This poor girl was told after she ran. So she was mistreated. This was not fair to her. This was a bad experience for her. But it's probably not because of bigotry. It could be because of bigotry. Probably not. Probably it was just a bad decision to not to let her know until the race was over. Okay, maybe it was somebody like, oh, I'm gonna let her run and then tell her out of spite. Maybe it was bigotry. Maybe. Okay, but you don't know. To the people that think she deserves this because she's wearing a hijab, I mean, I don't even know what to tell those people, right? Again, I say this as somebody that is against Islam, that thinks Islam is a disease, that thinks religion needs to die, that thinks Islam should have ended many, many years ago. I say as somebody that has burned the Quran, that is fighting Allah and the Quran and anything religious for half of my life, I tell you this, that just because somebody is wrong about God, just because somebody is wrong about religion, just because somebody is wrong to support the hijab or wrong to wear the hijab, even though they have a right to wear the hijab, I still support the right to wear the hijab, but I disagree with them on whether it's good or not to wear the hijab, and I stand against what the hijab represents. Just because you're wrong on all of that doesn't mean that you should be mistreated, right? Disqualified from life? Really? What about other things that people are wrong about, right? So if atheists that are against Islam, I'm pretty sure all of them are wrong about something. I'm wrong about many things. I just don't know what I'm wrong about, because if I knew what I was wrong about, I wouldn't be wrong about it anymore. I would stop holding that opinion. Just because you're wrong about something, that doesn't mean you should be mistreated. This was a pretty bad experience for her. This is pretty, especially because, again, it shouldn't be so, but she probably sees her hijab as part of her identity. It shouldn't be like that, but it is. So when you have an experience like that, you feel like you will be treated as, you've been told that you can't take part in society because of your identity. Again, this is a problem with Islam. This is how Islam is a very strong virus that makes itself part of your identity, and that's why people become so defensive about him. I'm not saying this as a way to defend Islam being part of someone's identity. That's a trick that Islam has. But while that's a trick that it does and it uses it very effectively, this is a young student that is feeling less, that is feeling attacked because of who she is. She feels like somebody just told her, yeah, you don't get to participate in society just like the other normal kids. That's a pretty hard message to take. This is not a good, this is not, even if she's wrong about something, that's not a good experience. And this is not how you show somebody that they're wrong about something. This is the worst way of showing somebody that they're wrong about something. And nobody's going to change their opinion about their identity or about their ideology because of their experience. They're probably going to double down on it because of it. Why would people think that it's okay to mistreat people, for people to go through horrible experiences just because you would have a disagreement with them? This is not okay. And again, people on both sides, this is like, come on, have more nuance. Even if you're arguing for or against something, don't be so tribal about it. Don't be so tribal about it. Oh, hijab bad, so this girl deserves to be disqualified. What? Or like the other side. Oh, this was obvious bigotry. How the hell do you know this was bigotry? How do you know? Oh my God. Anyways, let's read the top comments. Probably going to be toxic. Jennifer saying, but their own phrasing of their rules in the handbook, due to the fact that they failed to inform her of the disqualification before allowing her to run, they cannot disqualify her after. Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. So they made a mistake. Probably not bigotry. Probably just a mistake. Probably poor decision making on behalf of the people. You could criticize them for that. You could be like, wow, bad decision making. I could tell you there's some sort of religious privilege thing is going on here. For example, if this was a student that got an unfair treatment, like let's say this was another student that ran, got disqualified after the race was over, and it wasn't because she wasn't told before the race, she was told after the race, this would still be just as unfair, but it would not have gotten as near as much attention, right? So the fact that this is getting this much of an attention is part of religious privilege. This is religious privilege. So not only we probably not, I'm not sure. Not only we probably don't have a case of religious bigotry here, we in fact have the opposite here. We probably have a religious privilege here because she was unfairly treated. I acknowledge that, but she's probably getting a lot more attention to the unfair treatment for her case to some others compared to other students that were getting disqualified because of religion. Religion does give you some privilege, and this is one of them here. Phil is saying they should have, and this is unfair privilege. They should have told her before she ran, but rules are rules. No, not okay. To people that say, "Oh, rules are rules," no, we have bad rules. We sometimes have unfair, bad rules. Your belief in fairy tales shouldn't give you the ability to change things the way you seem fit. Yeah, the rules might have been bad, but it shouldn't. The rules should change not because of her fairy tales. The rules should have changed. The fact that it's getting more attention because of her fairy tales is, again, these rules are probably going to get changed because of all the attention that they're getting. And it's so sad that bad rules are getting changed because of Islam rather than because the rules were unfair. So I feel you're wrong. Rules are not always just rules. Some rules are really bad and they should be changed. But it's sad that it takes religious privilege to change unfair rules. Did you guys want to add anything?
Nope.
Oh, Stephanie is saying it's obviously a waiver because it's an extra piece of clothing that isn't standard. Yeah, so, and also she said, I've never seen professional racer with any kind of headgear on. Actually, there is a lot of professional racers that do have headgears on. Even men have to sometimes wear it for, other reasons. So, but I think people that want to get offended, they just been thrown a red meat. The people that are getting so worked up over this, they're getting so offended. They wouldn't have been so offended if this was for any other reason than religion, and they're being hypocritical about that. Again, it was unfair, it was a bad rule, but the fact that people are getting so offended over it, to me, shows that they're just offense junkies. It's not because they're not offended because the rules are unfair. They offended because they want to be offended, and they're using bigotry as an excuse. These people need bigotry. Okay, these people will find they will find their meanings so pointless and boring if tomorrow we stopped having any form of bigotry or sexism. This is why they have to find bigotry and sexism and homophobia and transphobia. Even if it doesn't exist, they just have to find it. They find it, they'll go look for it under rocks if they had to, right? They have to invent it even if it's not there. These people want a world with more racism and more homophobia and sexism and all of that and bigotry, because they need to become offense junkies, because when they get offended, they will find an excuse to act like they're superior to others and to get people to pay attention to them. Okay, and yeah, and it works. Unfortunately, it works. All right, Shopam, did you want to add anything?
Now I'm good.
Okay. Next news.
Next news out of the USA. Elizabeth Warren says she'll consider hiring a secular outreach director. So, Justin Scott, the Iowa State Director of American Atheists, had the chance to ask Elizabeth Warren a question, and he said, I'm an atheist, and we feel like there aren't a lot of politicians that cater to us, that come to us. We see everyone looking to bring in the religious vote, but we're here, and we're a huge piece that you're actually missing out on. And Elizabeth Warren said, hey, I've never thought of that before. Goes on to talk about how she's a Methodist, but he's an atheist, and she has learned through her church that we're all people, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of her little anecdote, she says she's going to think about getting a secular outreach program going for her campaign.
Okay, so I watched the video on this. First of all, kudos to this guy. What's his name again?
This guy, the guy that asked the question.
Yeah.
He is
Scott
Justin Scott.
Justin Scott. So Justin Scott, you are my hero right now. Okay, you are. I think I was the first one to ask one of the candidates for the 2020 election. Did you see my question to Andrew Yang?
Right? No.
Well, I asked Andrew Yang. My video on it is on Twitter. I asked Andrew Yang what does he think about atheists in the United States and the fact.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so Andrew Yang came out and he said something that is some atheists don't like. He kind of suggested that atheism is a religion, but if you ignore that part, he did support atheists and the fact that atheists are being ignored and atheists are as moral as other groups of people. So so Andrew Yang came out hugely in favor of supporting atheists. So that was the first 2020 candidate that came out and supported atheists. So thank you, Andrew Yang. So I did this for Andrew Yang, but obviously Elizabeth Warren is a much bigger candidate. So thank you to this. What is it again? Jonathan Scott, you said? Is that
Justin Scott?
Justin Scott. Thank you so much for doing this because, see, this is what I'm talking about. Where atheism is winning the demographic game, but we're losing the political game. And because we're not playing politics well, right? And that's why religion is becoming more and more influential, and it's taking more control even over all our lives, even though we're atheists are growing demographically, because we're not playing politics. And Justin Scott, you did exactly what we need to do. You're bringing attention to politicians that, hey, we are a demographic here that you need to respond to. And what better way to do that than having a secular outreach director? That's a perfect question. And by the way, the fact that even though you're asking for a secular outreach director, because secularism is not as big of a taboo as atheism, so I appreciate Justin Scott announcing on camera that he's an atheist. He didn't say I'm a secularist or a humanist or a free thinker. None of those words are demonized or taboo. He said, I'm an atheist. Thank you for normalizing that, because that's what needs to be normalized, right? And Elizabeth Warren started answering in a really bad way, but then she redeemed herself. Because I think, when I started listening to her answer, I thought oh, there we go, Elizabeth Warren again, because sometimes she just pivots and doesn't really answer the question. She does that too many times, right? You ask her a question and she says something that completely ignores the question, right? So she started saying well, you're an atheist. I like that she said just saying the word atheist by Elizabeth Warren helps us a lot, okay? Just normalizes that, just acknowledging that we exist, okay? So the fact that she said you're an atheist, just can't coming out of her mouth, that's just very important to me, right? But she kind of started ignoring the question. I was like, oh my, come on. She said like, you're an atheist. I'm a Methodist. I've been learned. I was raised up to be, being taught that we're all people. Like, really, we're all people. What a brave take. Okay, yeah, we're all people. Okay, great. So we're all people. We're all equal. We should all be treated like the same. Like, okay. But what about the question? So she, at the very last few seconds of her, I was ready to be just like throw something at my, throw my phone. So I was really getting angry that she wasn't addressing the question. But she said, just a few last seconds, I'll think about it. Okay? And you might think that's very small, but that is more than we have ever been given. And nobody, like, this is, I mean, Andrew Yang has given us a lot more than that. But for such a serious candidate, and such, she is right now, isn't she now the leading Biden, right? She's ahead of Biden now?
Yes,
Okay.
according to some.
So according to some polls, right? So for the leading candidate to say that she's going to talk to her people and she's going to consider, and I understand that later on she even came and talked to him and to say, like, to follow up with him that, yeah, this is a good suggestion, and she's going to talk to her people. And I know it might not lead to anything, but this is bigger than what atheists have gotten for a very, very long time, for any time at all. For a presidential candidate to say that she's going to consider having a secular outreach director. Again, all of these candidates, most of them, I think, have, faith outreach directors, right? Like people that, Christian, Jews, Muslims, they go to these candidates and they're like, what do you have to give to our community for us to tell our community to vote for you? And that is very strategic of the Muslim community and the Christians community and the Jewish community. That is smart. That's how you play politics, right? That's how you win. That's how you get more control. And that's how atheists lose, right? And this is why, what's his name? Justin Scott's question was perfect. We need to have a secular outreach director, okay? And again, now that there's been set a precedent, now that at least one serious candidate has said that they're going to consider it, now we have this on record. Now we need to go to other candidates and be like, listen, Elizabeth Warren has said that they're going to seriously consider this, right? Bernie Sanders, how come you've never said anything about atheists? I mean, I like Bernie Sanders, honestly, more than Elizabeth Warren. A lot more, especially because of his foreign policy stuff, right? Positions, right? But where are you? Are you going to say, you have said some stuff about God, you have said stuff about Muslims, about Christianity, about faith. Are you going to also pay attention to your atheist supporters? Are you going to do anything for supporting secularism, for keeping church and state separate? Have you said anything about that? Are you going to say anything in support of your atheist citizens about the influence of religion on people's lives? Where are you on that? Are you going to have a secular outreach director? That's the new standard now. Justin Scott has made that now the new standard. He has increased, our expectation. We don't want you to just say something anymore. This is amazing. You have increased our standards. We don't want you to just be like, yeah, church and state separation. We want you to have a secular outreach director. All of these candidates, now we want all of them. This is the new standard. You need to have a secular outreach director to appeal to our to this base, to appeal to the atheist community. In fact, we are going to only promote you only if you have something as significant. The atheist community is now paying a lot more attention to Elizabeth Warren and Andrew Yang because of their full-on, Andrew Yang's full-on support of the atheist community. Even though he got some details wrong, we could forgive him for that because they're not, very that much well versed in this. But and we're paying a little bit more attention to Elizabeth Warren for this. But no, Bernie Sanders, come on, what do you have to say? Come on, Bernie, say something. Somebody ask Bernie in the next town hall or whatever. Ask Bernie Sanders if he's going to have a secular outreach director. That is so good, because this question is so good. It's because it's beyond just lip service. I didn't think about this. It's actually something that you could take an action on. You can't be just like, yeah, atheists good, I'm going to support them. This is something that you could visibly see that they actually are taking some action on, right? We want secular outreach director. We want secular outreach director that is going to hold the candidate accountable to the promises that they're going to make for atheists and for secularism. Do you guys want to add anything?
Nope.
Shubham?
No.
Brad is saying, as much as this sounds great, pick someone who is ethical and works for the better of the people. Well, I don't know. I think every candidate should have this. Trevor saying, why not just drop out and endorse Bernie? Would help the secular community out loads more than some outreach guy. I don't know, Trevor. I support Bernie over Warren as well because of his foreign policy positions, but Bernie needs to have a secular outreach director. He hasn't said much about secularism. He needs to say something. Or else I'll consider Warren more in favor of the atheists than Bernie if he doesn't say anything. If he shies away from this. If he's not supposed to be one of those guys that is gonna stay quiet because he's scared of people's reactions and trying to okay, if Elizabeth Warren can do as much as just say like, I'll think about it, that's pretty good. I think Bernie could, if Warren can say that, Bernie can do more. He needs to do more. He needs to say more. Okay, come on, Bernie. The ball is in your court now. Okay. Let me see. Another godless atheist saying he asked a similar question to Julian Castro. Well, what did it say? What did he say?
He said he asked the same question to Julian Castro and got the best answer. He asked the same.
What did Julian Castro? Okay, let's look it up. Let's look up Julian Castro's answer later. Okay, but I didn't know that. But Julian Castro, who really cares, right? I don't know. All right, never mind. All right, let's go to the next news.
Next news is out of Belfast, Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland prepares for momentous gay marriage and abortion changes. That's right, because gay marriage and abortion are now legal in Northern Ireland. Yay!
Yay! This one case where we're winning.
Yes, fantastic. So these changes will officially be made in 2020. February 14th, Valentine's Day, will be the first opportunity for same-sex couples to marry once they give 28 days notice, which is standard. And also, get this is so awesome. From now until Northern Ireland is set up to handle abortion early next year, the United Kingdom will cover expenses of anyone traveling for a procedure, and medical support will be provided to anyone needing it after terminating with pills.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, a lot of people are like, good job, Northern Ireland. No, not good job, Northern Ireland. Good job to the activists in Northern Ireland. Okay, these things don't come just because time passes. All right, you have to, like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, progress, everything is getting better. No, this is not because things are just getting better. Things don't just get better. This is because of activists. You have to remember these, make a list of these things that are happening because of activists. Because a lot of people dismiss the work of activists. A lot of people think that, having campaigns or protests or online, getting signatures, donations, all of this is for nothing. Oh, people just live and let live. Oh, well, look, other people that decided that that's nonsense, that you need to stand up and stand for something and say something. Now they have influenced the lives of many gay couples and also a lot of women because they didn't take your advice, because they knew better, because they cared about other people's lives, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, why do you do atheist activism? Religion is gonna die anyways. Oh, why do you have to tell people what to believe in or what not to believe in? This is gonna happen anyways. Progress, it's just a function of time, man. Just let it, this isn't gonna. No, it's not just gonna happen. This is because of other people stood up for something. Other people sacrificed their time, their resources, and sometimes, many times in other countries, their lives, their freedom, and their safety. Okay, these things don't come for free. The other people fought for it, and the other people that are just looking at this news and just liking it and clapping their hands, they're just getting the benefit of it without actually doing much of their work. And if you don't have the time and resources to put in the work, or even maybe the donation, at least be grateful. Be grateful. These things don't just happen. These things don't just happen. Somebody worked for these things. Maybe donate to something if you don't have the time or resources, or the energy, or we always say donate to Atheist Republic, but you don't have to donate to Atheist Republic. Donate to something. If you have too much work, if you can't afford to donate, do some if you can't go into the street and do some protest, do some online activism. Share some stories. Share this story. Celebrate the victory, and also thank the people that deserve the credit. Thank the people. Find the names of the people that are responsible for this and celebrate them and support their work. Share the, if people like, well, oh yeah, online activism, good job. That's not much. It's better than nothing. If you can't protest, if you can't donate, share the stories. Leave a review on someone's podcast. Support your favorite content creators some way. Do something. These things don't just happen, okay? It's not just a function of time. It's time plus activism. Let me see. At last, a country living in the 1960s come into the 21st century. I am a pro-life atheist with 27 miscarriages. I don't understand what this has to do with anything. I'm not going to read that screenshot. Corey is saying, finally, the Alabama of the UK joins the 21st century. Yeah, this is not Ireland. It's Northern Ireland, right? So
Yes.
Ireland already had moved to the 21st century a while back, like just last year, right?
Yes.
Right. So good job, Northern Ireland. A lot of people confuse the Irelands with each other. All right. Anything in the live chat? No. Shapam, Ali, any comments?
Nope.
No.
All right. Next news.
Next news is out of Australia. Voters in Australia are against the return of ISIS wives and kids. So a news poll found that 59% of 1,634 voters polled between October 17th and 19th are opposed to the return of 20 Australian women and 46 children that are stranded, and only 36% are in favor.
These are Australian citizens?
These are Australian citizens that right now are stranded in refugee camps in northern Syria following the defeat of ISIS.
And their kids. So these are Australian voters that are for punishing children because of the choices of their parents?
Right.
How is
Bring those kids home. Look, I don't think the average person has really looked in what a refugee camp in Syria is like. And we actually covered this. You and I, Armin, covered this about 10 months ago. There were 2 children who were begging to come back home, right? And the grandma in Australia was doing everything, going through courts, fighting so hard to get her grandchildren. One of her grandchildren was a 15-year-old who had 3 children. A 15-year-old, okay? and she's fighting. She's doing everything she can to get her grandchildren back into Australia, and they're just not having it because she was a part of ISIS. So what we don't understand here, guys, is they are living in absolute hell where they are. They have been through it, and most of them, I'm sorry, all of them not by choice. Okay, and the fact that people can't see past their own hatred of ISIS to say, hey, you know what? These are our children. All those children, they're every citizen in Australia, they're their children. Okay, they belong in Australia. They deserve to come home. They're living in hell, and the fact that these people can't see through ISIS, right, is just beyond me.
Yeah, but how do they justify it? Like, there must be, like, can we steelman their argument? What is their best argument? Why would they be okay with kids being stranded somewhere? These kids that are citizens of Australia be stranded somewhere because of the decisions of their parents. Like, how would they justify that?
I don't know.
So we haven't here. Okay, maybe we'll when we scroll down we hear an argument. But honestly, even the wives, these are Australian citizens. So like these Australian voters are in favor of violating Australian rules? Like, aren't you like? I don't. You guys do understand that a citizen of a country is still a citizen of your country, even if they're criminals. And they are.
Okay.
That's the whole point of being a citizen is that yes, you get punished, you get imprisoned, but you do that while being protected by the laws and all the protection that your country has to offer. That's the whole point of being a citizen. Like, just because all of a sudden you're a criminal, that doesn't remove your rights as a citizen of a country. You know, the due process, the representation in a court of law. You know, that doesn't mean that you don't get punished. That doesn't mean you don't go to jail. But I don't think that means you get abandoned somewhere just because you're a criminal. You're still a citizen of a country. I mean, your rights doesn't become less than other.
You're absolutely right.
You're-
But this is what the federal government is saying. So far, the federal government has resisted calls for them to be brought home, saying the situation is too dangerous and would endanger the lives of defense troops sent to retrieve them.
Oh, okay. That's a fair point, though. That is a fair point. If that's the argument, I'll buy into that. If they're not, if they're being honest about it, right? So if you're doing a cost benefit analysis, and you're like, listen, this is gonna be the cost of this is. I mean, it does show that your country is not as committed to saving its citizens as a country like United States, for example. Right?
Yeah.
So it does make, you know what it does? It makes your citizenship valued less. So for example, you know that your citizenship is valued so much when you are like stranded in a country like United States citizenship, for example, you could feel like that. Yeah, I can see why I'm a United States citizen when you are captured by Somali pirates and all of a sudden United States sends its best, like a whole army to save you, right? You're like, yeah, this is why I'm a U.S. citizen. Like, I have the full protection of the U.S. military if I'm under threat by hostiles in other countries, right? So you could be like, in that situation, you value your U.S. citizenship more than your Australian citizenship, right? So by not going on and getting your citizens, what you're effectively doing is saying like, look, your citizenship is worth less than a U.S. citizenship. That's what it means, right?
Yeah.
So, but still, I'll still buy that if you're doing a cost benefit analysis and saying that we could save this many lives, but these women are not going to die. They're just going to probably live in a really horrible situation. And if we want to send somebody to get them, they might actually die, and we might actually start a conflict. So cost-benefit analysis, we're not going to send anybody, right? So maybe you're right. I don't know if you're being honest or if there's other reasons why you're doing this. But if you're being honest, maybe you're right, okay? But if the argument of these voters, my suspicion is that these motives are like, F these people, they're ISIS anyways, right? If that's your argument, I don't buy that. Because what's the difference between the citizens that join ISIS compared to your other citizens that are criminals, right? So let's say an Australian citizen that raped and murdered a whole bunch of people, but you know, they're still an Australian citizen. They're going to go to jail. They're going to pay for their crimes, but they're going to still enjoy their rights. They're going to still be able to get lawyers. They're still going to, like, for example, you don't get to just torture them. You don't just like, kill them. You don't get to like throw them out of the country. They're still going to be able to have representation in court, to defend themselves, to have to be able to enjoy you know, being protection from harm in prison. For example, if somebody in prison wants to kill them, they're going to enjoy protection. Like as a citizen of Australia, you will be able to enjoy all those rights even if you're a criminal. So what does joining ISIS have, you know, does that strip away all your rights all of a sudden? No, you're a criminal, and just like any other citizen that is a criminal, you're going to be treated the same way. You shouldn't be treated differently. You shouldn't be, your citizenship shouldn't be taken away from you. You remember, if you're in support of citizenship being taken away, you're setting a really bad precedent. You are devaluing the citizenship of your entire country because of a few people. How many ISIS wives do we have in Australia? How many are they? I don't know how many are. They're probably like less than 100. I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Probably less than 100. For less than 100 people, you're going to devalue. You're going to basically stand against the laws of your own country, the rights that your citizenship offers, and the value of the of being a citizen of Australia because of a few hundred people. I mean, what if these women come back? Do you think they're just going to be free to walk the streets? Well, they should come back and they should pay for their crimes. They should say, you know, it doesn't mean they're going to come back and they're just going to be free. They're going to come back and they should go to prison. You're not doing them any favors. You know, yes, they have rights, but under those rights, you basically, under the rights that you have as a citizen of Australia, that includes going to, you know, that does not include being free after committing a crime. Just like other, you know, you still go to jail. So what's the problem with that? In fact, they should come home and be studied. They should come home and people should do studies on them, and to be able to fighting radicalism. What made an Australian woman decide to go and join ISIS? These women are going to have valuable information. They're going to have valuable insight. Anyway, let me read the top comment.
There's a quote in here that I can't wrap my head around. One, because it repeats itself. That's not me doing this, but in quote, it would have been much better, of course, for certain adults not to have made certain decisions to travel. Is what the Home Affairs Department Secretary Mike Paluzzo said in a Senate hearing about this. So is he saying that it would have been much better? Like, is he capped in hindsight here, saying that it would have been awesome had these women chose not to go there in the first place? Wow.
Yeah, wow, yeah, really? Oh, it would have been great if these women didn't join ISIS. Wow, what great insight. Thank you for that. Somebody in our Facebook comments is saying they made their choice and now they are stuck with it. Again, I don't think people understand that this is not about this is not about fairness. This is not about teaching these women a lesson. This is about your hate for these women. You are going to pay the price for it. The Australian citizen, if you want to, for a couple of ISIS wives, because you want to punish them more than other criminals, you are going to pay for it with the value of your citizenship. You are going to pay a bigger price for it as an Australian citizen, and if you add all of the Australians and the value of their citizenship combined, the devaluing of that combined is way more than what these women are going to be paying for it. So if you want to punish these women with that instead of just putting them in jail in Australia, if you want them to pay more by making them stay in a refugee camp, it's the Australian citizen that is going to pay for it in the long run more than these women combined. Because there are more Australian citizens than these women. way more. So the aggregate cost of that is going to be a lot more. Again, people have this gut, just knee-jerk reaction to these things. They just want people to suffer. Like, I hate you and your decision. I just want to get this sense of satisfaction from just seeing you suffer. You know,
It's so creepy.
it's just like, it's not about the net effect of things on the society, on everybody, or about making the best decision. That is the long-term ramifications of making these decisions. It's just about this revenge mentality, just like, something very biblical about it, like eye for an eye kind of thing, right? So another woman is saying, I can't read their name, I don't know how to pronounce the name, is saying they can't come back to the country they hope to destroy just because you lost the war. You made your choice, now deal with the consequences. Again, we already responded to this. Okay. Shopam, did you want to add anything to this?
Well, so many people are saying they made their choice and they have to live with it. I mean, I want to know, does Australian law says that if you commit certain kinds of crimes, you will retain your citizenship, and if you commit certain other kind of crimes, then you will lose your citizenship?
Right.
Does Australian law say
No.
something like this?
Like these are the list of crimes that you. I mean, if you want to do that, then you're not a citizen. If you could commit certain crimes and you're gonna lose your citizenship, then you don't have citizen. Then there's no point. Like, your citizenship means nothing. Like, honestly, you don't want to go there. You don't understand. You don't understand. And if people say like, oh, you went against your country, so you have to suffer the consequences. Well, you are going against your country as well. The people that are that you're attacking the value of the citizenship of your country by arguing this. So all of the people that are you are going, those arguments that you're making against these women applies to you as well, because you're attacking the value of the citizenship of your own country. So you are also attacking your country. Okay?
Just saying something like, there are most of the people saying these are atheists here. So in Saudi Arabia, Iran, atheists go against their country by saying stuff against their religion. And so should they be hanged? So are atheists supporting that atheists should be hanged in Saudi Arabia and Iran because they are going against their country? Because this reasoning of going against the country doesn't make any sense. I go against my country.
Yeah.
By saying lots of stuff against you.
And a lot of people are going to think that we think these women should be, we are against having consequences for women joining. Like, people are like, oh, well, these atheists are supporting women who joined ISIS. No, we're not saying there shouldn't be consequences for joining ISIS. Okay, we're not saying that. Like, how stupid do you have to be for you to suggest that we're saying that, okay? There should be consequences, but you have to choose the consequences. You know, you have to be smart for choosing the consequences, right? They have to go to jail, just like all other Australian criminals. They're criminals.
It's just simple like a petty robber. He isn't thrown out at the sea. He's taken to the jail when he commits the crime.
Right.
It's the same thing, because I mean, the criminals who commit crimes in the country, they aren't taken out to the sea and thrown in the water. They're taken to the jail and they suffer the consequences in the courts and there. It's the same thing. I mean, just because we are saying they're criminals. We are not saying they're not.
So. Right. Okay, so for example, if I say that, oh, like, I don't know, child molesting priest should still be able to defend himself in court, right? Do you like, oh, Armin, are you saying there shouldn't be any consequences to molesting children? Like, when the hell did I say that? Right? I never said that there shouldn't be any consequences. If they're guilty, they should see the consequences. But if you throw away their right to have a lawyer to represent them and defend them, the consequences to that is much greater than than a child molesting priest going free. Okay, you're throwing away all these things that made your country great if you take away due process. Okay, so yes, they should see consequences, but the consequences that they see shouldn't come at the cost of the values and principles and processes and systems that made your country better than their country to begin with. Don't get it, do give them the consequences, punish them, make it, there needs to be justice, but don't throw away everything that made Australia better than Syria, the countries that they are coming from. Don't throw away all the things that made your country great in the name of punishing them. Anyways, that's it. We talked about this news for too long. Let's go to the next news.
Next news and last news is out of Nigeria. 500 shackled children freed from third Islamic boarding school in North Nigeria. Everyone, the story is crazy. Okay, so in Nigeria, since late September, there have been 3 different raids on Islamic schools, okay, where over 1,200 males, some as young as 5 years old, have been freed, okay? They've been chained to walls, molested, and beaten in these Islamic schools. So this latest one was a raid on a school called Malniga in the city of Katsina. And with all 3 of these schools that have been raided, they have found the same things. There was one building up front where the students there were treated great. The conditions were wonderful. Everything looked on the up and up. But then there was a separate building where, in this case, the school of Malniga, 500 boys and young men were chained to walls, sexually abused and beaten. Okay, so all 3 of the schools that have been raided in Nigeria since September, they have found these same conditions. A school that was nice and a school where the students were just chained and abused.
Wow. Why were they what was the point of, so this is, which group has done this? Which Islamic boarding school? Is this the terrorists or just not random? Because we know which Boko Haram had kidnapped a whole bunch of girls, right? But this is this is not Boko Haram. This is just an Islamic boarding school. So
yes, these are. So these are, parents are sending their children to these private schools, madrasas, because they provide a better quality of education than the state schools. So they're sending their sons off to learn here, right?
Oh my God. So this
even some adults. What's that?
This is voluntarily was done by the parents? So these weren't even kidnapped?
Because that school up front, which shows all the kids who are healthy, being fed, have their own sleeping situation, all that stuff, it looks good. It looks like a good school. But then they're taking the money from the parents and chaining up, I guess, extras maybe. We don't really know at this point.
Why are they chained up? Can somebody explain that to me?
Newcomers and rebels were generally held in the second building, victims said, although students in the first were sometimes taken there and beaten and molested. So it looks like, yes. So the students, the victims, the survivors are telling everybody that the new kids, once that first school was filled up, anyone new that came in was chained. And then if any of the kids from the first school started acting up and being bad, they'd be taken to that second building, chained up and molested and beaten.
And 500 of them were chained up? 500?
It's 500 in one school.
In one school? What the hell? How many?
Among 3 schools that were found, over 1,200 males.
So how many of them are still chained up that we don't know about?
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's what they're diving into here. There's going to be more raids. The government has already made a statement saying we cannot allow centers where people, male or female, are maltreated in the name of religion.
How is this in the name of religion? Which
schools right now?
I mean, I'm against Islam, but which part of Islam is this? I mean, I don't remember anything in Islam supporting this.
This has nothing, in my opinion, this has nothing to do with religion. This is just bad people who want to make money.
Right. So we need to be fair when it comes to criticizing Islam. Islam has a lot of horrific, barbaric, violent, anti-woman, anti-human, anti-scientific, anti-many good things teachings that we call out, and we want Islam to die as a religion. But if something is when we see a horror story like this, and we can't find a direct link between it and Islam, we can't just blame it on Islam just because it's an Islamic boarding school. Because I don't know anything in Islam that promotes this. Okay, again, I'm not defending Islam because Islam promotes a lot of other horrific things, but not this, right? Can somebody point to anything in Islam that supports this? I mean, and maybe if there were girls, you could find more support for it in Islam than, you know. I mean, these are Muslim boys, right? They should be, and under Islam at least, they should be able to enjoy more rights than any other group of people, right? They're Muslim,
Well,
they're
this
men,
is something that
they should be enjoyed. I mean, if you're in Islam, if you're a Muslim and you're men, that's, you can't get much superior than that.
right.
You should be able to enjoy all the freedoms that you want. You can't just, somebody can't just chain you up and take away your freedoms like this. So this is not Islamic, even though this is an Islamic boarding school. This is not Islamic in any shape or form. Not that I could think of anything, unless I'm missing something and somebody could point to that to me. But go on, sorry, Ali.
Muslim Rights Concern, which is a local advocacy group there in Nigeria, is saying that as many as 10 million children are educated in privately owned madrasas across Nigeria.
Wow, that's a lot.
So yeah,
So there are probably a whole bunch more other kids shackled right now that we don't even know about.
right.
There are probably kids being molested right now as we speak while chained up, and we don't know about it.
Oh, it's terrible.
By the way, if that is the case, where's the hashtag Bring Back Our Boys? Because there was a hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. Is this kind of gender privilege when it comes to girls when they get kidnapped? And
This
shit?
is slightly different. I'm not trying to say it's better, but this is slightly different in the sense that these boys weren't kidnapped. Their parents did,
Yeah,
send them here. So maybe a different hashtag is definitely warranted, but
free our boys or something.
yeah, free our boys, right?
Yeah, because it's unfair if the girls get attention when they're kidnapped, and when 500 boys are shackled, they don't get the hashtag or something like that.
Oh, right now 1,200, over 1,200.
1,200.
500 just at one school.
How many girls were kidnapped by Boko Haram?
I think that was it 500?
276
Oh,
female
wow.
students. Okay, so we had like Michelle Obama and everybody having hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. We have had like we're having at least 1,200 boys here, so we need to have like somebody make a hashtag for them as well. Like this case, if this case doesn't get as much attention as the 270 female students that were kidnapped, there's a sexist bias happening here, I think. Don't you? I don't know. Maybe. I do think that when the interesting thing about the whole Bring Back Our Girls situation was that when they kidnapped those female students, do you know what they did with the Boko Haram group? Do you know what they did with the boys when they took over the
What?
school? They killed the boys. Okay, so when terrorists took over the schools, they kidnapped the girls, and they killed the boys, and everybody was like, "Bring back the girls." And we're like, "Yeah, but what about the boys? They killed the boys." So like, I do think sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of sexism against girls in these countries that does need more attention, but there's also some unfairness to the boys that doesn't get attention, I think, sometimes, that people don't pay attention to in some of these situations. Men enjoy a lot of privileges, especially in third world countries, but there are examples where girls do enjoy, women and girls enjoy some privileges, especially when it comes to getting support and activism for their cause. So let's make it not the case in this situation. Like, share the story. These were boys that are being molested, boys that are being chained up. Please make sure that we also share this story as much as we would have if there were girls being kidnapped, chained, or molested. Joe is saying third one in less than a month. What a great religion it is. Again, I don't think this is because of Islam.
No, it's just bad people.
Just bad people. Yeah, but again, it's important there. When you admit something is not because of Islam, it's easier to take you seriously when you actually blame Islam for something that Islam deserves to be blamed for, right? Christy is saying never forget. Beej is saying, and men too. There were men being mistreated at those schools. Yeah. Okay. All right. Shubham, did you want to add anything to this?
No.
All right. Good. So that was our last news. Thank you, everybody. We managed to keep it under 2 hours as we try every week. Thank you, Shubham. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, everybody in the live chat. I see J.A., William, Terrell, Jody, and on YouTube, I see Christy, Vibrantly, Doorknob Head, Overnight Vegan, another godless atheist. BJ and Chrissy, it's great to have you here. Thank you for moderating the live chat.
Thank you so much.
Yep, love you guys. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing. Please share. Please share our content, share our videos, share our podcast. These are always released on a podcast format as well. So please go to iTunes and leave us a review there. Again, I appreciate your engagement and see you guys again next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay.
All right, bye.